Well, hello everyone. Good evening and good morning, or whatever time you have. I am happy to be here, and I really feel very honored to moderate this panel. I'm Letty Pienaar in Second Life and Crystal Schneider in the real world. And just a few things about myself. I, apart from running a small company, CSI Train, I'm working as a research assistant for the University of Central Lancashire for the Camelot project in England, and that is dealing with making machinima for language teaching and learning. And I'm also studying for an MA in the virtual education at the University of the West of England from my home base. And for the rest of the time, if there is any left, I'm teaching German in virtual worlds. Now, let's come to the purpose of this panel here. The purpose is to discuss how NonProfit Commons has contributed to significant dialogue around the use of virtual worlds like Second Life. The panelists will discuss how they have changed and grown, as well as the different opportunities and moments that have distinguished the group and the manner in which they promote and spotlight best practices. NonProfit Commons was designed to lower the barriers of access to Second Life, to create a community of practice for non-profits to explore and learn about the virtual world, and to investigate the many ways in which non-profits might utilize this unique environment. Through this community, NonProfit Commons provide free office space to qualifying groups, meet and network, create a cooperative learning environment, and foster outreach, education, fundraising, all in a virtual space. The main focus is on providing an accessible entry point to Second Life and on creating a community of non-profit organizations for effective collaboration and support. Second Life is seen as a wonderful place, not just for entertainment, but also to educate, inspire, and work together to assist fellow avatars and the human people behind them. You do not have to be a resident of the NonProfit Commons to get involved with the community. And Joyce, Bettencourt, Rhiannon, Chatnoir in Second Life, and the other panelists will explore a little further on this, and I will go around introduce each of the panelists and start with Joyce Bettencourt, who is an artist, interactive designer, and digital media producer whose focus is where creativity, community, social good, and the future converge online. She is the online community manager for TechSoup Global's non-profit Commons and Second Life community. And in addition, she is creative director of the Vesuvius Group, a collaborative studio specializing in developing online, immersive, virtual and social environments for community building, including for the American Museum of Natural History, California Academy of Science, the Field Museum, the World Bank, Georgia Tech, Georgia State University, Arizona State University, and the University of Southern California's Annenberg Institute, New York City Department of Education, and Ramapo School District. Wow, I'm running out of breath now. So many things. And she is also co-founder of the non-profit Avacon Incorporation, dedicated to promoting the growth, enhancement and development of the metaverse, virtual worlds, augmented reality and 3D immersive spaces, Avacon. And Avacon are organizers of the upcoming Federal Consortium of Virtual World Symposium, the yearly virtual Open Simulator Community Conference, and were organizers of the Second Life Community Conference that brought together hundreds of users in cities such as Boston in 2010 and Oakland in 2011, and so forth. Joyce is a 2012 graduate of the Singularity University Graduate Studies program, focused on applying futurist technologies to addressing global grand challenges. And previously, she was digital media producer for the online leadership program at the educational nonprofit Global Kids and produced digital media learning content for the web and in the former Teen Second Life, Machinima projects, mixed reality events, and the Second Life social issue game Consent. As the avatar Rhiannon Chatnoir, she began to exploring the virtual world of Second Life in January 2005 and has since used it as a medium for networking, marketing and creating art, as well as organizing numerous charity and social good online events, including the virtual Haiti relief campaign within the virtual world of Second Life that helped raise awareness and $10,000 in virtual microtransactions. Well, that's quite a lot, thanks to Joyce. And next to Joyce, we have Buffy Beale in Second Life. And Buffy is an avid supporter of non-profits in Second Life as a member of the management and mentor teams at the Non-Profit Commons since 2007 and believes virtual worlds will connect us in the future in ways we can only imagine now. Well, actually, she was the first who took me to a celebration party at one stage, flying on a carpet when I was quite new in Second Life. Well, and Buffy manages the Bridges for Women virtual office in Non-Profit Commons as a long-time volunteer in real life for this gutsy non-profit on the board of directors as their technology advisor. She's also the training director and ace flyer for the Zero G Sky Dancers, a Second Life performing art troupe, often compared to Cirque du Soleil. Buffy retired early in 2009 from a lifelong career in computer technology with the Ontario and British Columbia provincial government, with positions ranging from user and network support, programmer software instructor, to her final position as service integrator engineer, managing large-scale, high-profile implementation for IT services. Okay. Now, next to Buffy, we have Renne Brock-Richmond, also known as Zauber in Second Life. And as I just learned from Zauber, she is half Japanese as well, and I thought it might be quite a nice challenge for everyone here if she could do her talk in Japanese. Well, I don't know if everyone will be so pleased about that. Anyway, Renne is an artist an instructor and superhero, empowering people to be their best virtual and tangible self by advancing excellence, exceptional pursuits, and individualism through creative expression and encouraging instruction with inspired results. Renne has actively taught fine art and digital media for over 20 years and is the Multimedia Communications Program Coordinator at Peninsula College. Full stop. Her company specializes in color perception, intention, and utilization to create motivating, engaging experiences with innovative identity development, marketing, social media, events, and immersive environments for business, non-profits, educational institutions, organizations, and communities. She has been teaching virtual worlds since 2008 with University of Washington, Peninsula College, Federal Consortium for Virtual Worlds Conference, and the National Defense University, Virtual Worlds Best Practices in Education Conferences, TechSoup Global, NonProfit Commons, Virtual Ability, Rockcliffe University Consortium, Second Life Community Conferences, and Arizona State University. Focused on the evolution of intelligence, expression, and superheroes, she earned her Bachelor's of Science in Art at Lewis and Clark College and her Master's of Fine Art in Visual Art at Vermont College at Norwich University, and she graduated from the first pioneering class of the University of Washington Certificate in Virtual Worlds program in 2009. And, by the way, Renne only uses her superpowers for good. And let's come to the only man in this round here. This is Coughran, Mayo in Second Life, and I stick to his name in First Life, that is Dick Dillon. And he has held many positions in his 30-plus years of involvement with the behavioral health field, including counselor, clinical team leader, program director, and chief operating officer. He has also been a consumer of services, and soon after graduation from the treatment program, Dick began working with other people in early recovery, first as a volunteer alumni coordinator, and then as an addictions counselor, clinical team leader, and program director. In 2000, Dick joined Preferred Family Healthcare Incorporation, which was then, as now, one of the most progressive and fast-growing mental health service providers in the United States. And he served PFH for 11 years as Senior Vice President of Planning and Development. And, in his own words, my job was to help determine what we need to do next to be the best services to our clientele and find the resources to make that happen. In November 2011, Dick formed his own consulting organization, Innovation LLC, devoted to helping behavioral health and other human services organizations become more innovative and effective by combining common sense, vision, evidence-based practices, and cutting-edge technology. A hallmark project he has been developing over the past few years, avatar-assisted therapy, recently won third place in the Lockheed Martin Innovative the Future Challenge in competition with nearly 500 other entrants in all fields of science, research and performance. Quite remarkable. Dick's philosophy is simple. Make the seemingly impossible possible by blending unbridled passion for the success of others with concrete research, solid clinical practice and imaginative problem-solving solutions. Okay, so last not least, we come to Lynn Barrett in real life, Lissena in Second Life or Wisdomseeker. And Lynn owns Inspiration Island in Second Life, part of Rockcliffe University. And she came into Second Life actively in March in 2012. And she discovered NonProfit Commons soon after that. She directs the non-profit Ageless Mind project, which links in-world and out-world research-based educational programs. In-world, this includes whole brain health, an immersive educational program, and the community of creative elders, a group dedicated to increasing the well-being of people over 50. Outworld, she regularly presents at conferences about successful aging, where she demonstrates to other professionals in the field the value of virtual worlds for their work, especially with isolated and underserved populations. And her goal is to create virtual environments that offer mature residents rich opportunities for lifelong learning, as well as assisting them to discover the benefits available to them in the greater virtual community. Okay, so this is all the panelists here. And maybe each of them could explore a little. With the first question, I would like to address to Joyce. I would like to ask you, Joyce, to introduce us a bit to what the Non-Profit Commons and Second Life community is and some of its history and how it began. The floor is yours, Joyce.
Thank you, Letty. So hello, everyone. As she mentioned, I'm Rhiannon Chatnoir or Joyce Bettencourt, whichever you choose to call me. And as I mentioned in the panel yesterday, I wear many hats here. And one of the important roles, or one of those important hats, is that I'm online community manager here at the Nonprofit Commons and Second Life community. So it is a community of practice for nonprofits and others interested in social good. And the community itself began in early 2006 and was organized by the avatar Glitteractica Cookie, who's Susan Tenby in the physical world, and who works at the 501c3 nonprofit TechSoup. She worked for them, and they were interested in how they could use this space to network with other nonprofits. TechSoup's Nonprofit Commons was designed to create a community of practice for nonprofits to explore, to share best practices and learn what a virtual world, and to investigate the many ways in which these nonprofits might utilize these unique virtual environments and other emerging technologies. And through the community, we've provided free office space to qualifying groups around the world, and we host weekly meetings and network. We create a cooperative learning environment, as Letty mentioned. And our focus is on creating community for nonprofit organizations for effective collaboration and support, regardless of geographic location of the community members. This also includes intersecting with the research, education, the library, and other communities here in Second Life that share a focus towards using virtual worlds in their practice as well. Over the years, Nonprofit Commons has had over 2,000 plus members of our Nonprofit Commons groups, thousands of unique visitors yearly from over 80 countries around the world. Here's a few highlights that I'll give you a link to so you can kind of see where some of these highlights are coming from. They're also down in a happy little infographic. In June 2006, TechSoup began exploring Second Life early that year and began having regular weekly meetings led by Susan Tenby, Glitteractica Cookie, by June of 2006. In August of 2007, TechSoup officially launched its first simulator region in Second Life and began the nonprofit Commons and Second Life community. And I know after me, Coughran and Buffy, we're going to talk about kind of both of those periods of time. In April of 2008, and this was an interesting milestone, Susan Tenby of TechSoup, along with Philip Rosedale, founder of Linden Lab, and two others testified about Second Life as a part of telecommunications in the Internet Subcommittee congressional hearing. So they were there on the congressional floor talking about how virtual worlds would, in regards to the governmental and other aspects of them. And in 2010, Nonprofit Commons and Second Life was the 2010 Linden Prize finalist. I think we might have shared that year also with Virtual Ability. And that brings us to 2015. And Nonprofit Commons, we continue to host our weekly meetings. So that's ever since 2006. So it's every Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. and Pacific time. And that's for nonprofits and libraries, educators, and those interested in social good and technology. So that's kind of an overall of the brief timeline and an overall of the history. And I think Buffy first and then Coughran are going to kind of fill us in on the beginning periods of time of Nonprofit Commons. Buffy, to you.
Thanks. Yep. Thanks, Ray. This is Buffy. And I understand we're being live streamed, so I just wanted to give a wave to everybody that's listening on the web now or maybe in the future. So I think Coughran could better fill in on the earliest history. I joined the Nonprofits Commons shortly before the opening of our first group of 32 nonprofit offices on our own island in August of 2007, that was. It was a grand opening that day, a full house, and the grandeur of gowns and tuxedos, I mean, it made my head spin. Ann Shi Chung was there, one of the first Second Life millionaires, along with many other Second Life celebrities. That was the first of what was to be 3 more openings of new islands over the years, with near 100 nonprofit organizations from around the globe. We've been meeting every Friday, as Rai said, at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time since then, always with a community manager to organize the speakers and agenda. First was Glitteractica Cookie, who is Susan Tenby from TechSoup, then Rick Riel, and currently it's Rhiannon, Rai, I call her. All have done a marvelous job of keeping the nonprofit commons going with their hard work and dedication. I think this is a contributing factor to our community's longevity, that we had that support from TechSoup for a leader to guide us. All have done a great job of bringing in many interesting speakers. It's truly been a well-rounded learning experience. But I have to say, Rai, you really have gone the extra mile with your noticeable efforts to support us. You've shared your expertise on many different technologies, applications, and platforms, and most especially always been available to help us to help ourselves. In a word, you are awesome, Rai. I really think that. It's been a pleasure knowing you. Back in the early days, we also had manager meetings via conference calls quite regularly, which helped coordinate us volunteers to undertake things such as developing our website or wiki, or helping new members get settled in with their office. We were one of Linden's community gateways, which was a bit of a hairy time. I think Coughran and C will remember this one. Coughran and Z will remember this. These were typically new users, and helping can take up quite a lot of time and effort. The volunteers quickly developed some things to help, like note cards and clothing packs, and a flying magic carpet tour complete with chat descriptions of each nonprofit as it flew our guests by the offices. Great tools that we still use today. As an aside, I have quite a fondness for that magic carpet. It was one of the first things I saw as a new user that totally mesmerized me. An avatar was flying around and doing perfect landings, just floating right down beside me. And he was even dressed like an Arabian knight, complete with a shiny sword. It really, truly felt like a wonderland to me. Steve, do you have some more information you'd like to add about our earlier history?
Well, I predate you by several months, but it came into Second Life in February of 2007. So at that time, TechSoup and NonProfit Commons had been around for a while, but were really starting to develop a little momentum. I remember when I first encountered Second Life, I used the search feature to try to look for organizations that were involved in healthcare or behavioral health, things that I'd been interested in and field I've been working in for many years, and finally stumbled across a good lead when I typed nonprofits into the search bar and was directed to what at that time was just basically an informational kiosk. I think it was on one of the education islands, if I can remember correctly, but that put me in touch with Glitteractica. It was my first contact through TechSoup, and they were that group was just negotiating, actually, I guess, with Anchi Chung, who you already mentioned, Buffy, to get our first parcel or island specifically for nonprofit commons. So I was able to be part of the group that was involved in the planning and the recruitment of the first 32, I think, nonprofits that filled the spaces on plush nonprofit commons. One of the reasons Anchi was at our grand opening was for us to recognize and acknowledge her donation of that space to the organization, and that was a very interesting evening. It was the most avatars I'd ever seen in one place at one time, and I had the dubious distinction of being on the security crew, which meant that I had the power to eject people, and which I fortunately did not have to do. But got to stand off on the side of the stage and look appropriately tough in my tuxedo, and so that was the beginning. And what I remember very much about those first months really was the interesting level of knowledge and experience people had with virtual worlds, which ranged all the way from people who'd been gaming for many years and really understood how virtual environments worked and how to get around, and people who were coming in for their very first time and didn't really have a clue of what they were supposed to be doing. And the board and the mentor group of nonprofit commons at that time was able to offer, I think, a lot of really good guidance and advice for the early tenants of nonprofit commons: how to set your office space up, what would be of interest to visitors, how to display information so that you'd have a 24/7 presence. Even if you weren't online, people could still come in and learn about your organization, get directed to your website and the like. And that's always been for me one of the greatest pleasures, I guess, of my involvement with nonprofit commons. I have been an early adopter of technology from the start, and was involved in addiction-related listservs back in the day when everything you did online was purely text. And in the early 1990s, I developed a website called the Web of Addictions when graphical user interfaces first started to come around, and we could create websites with pictures and things like that. And so in my field, I tend to be recognized, I think, as a person who's got a foot planted firmly in the type of work we do to help other people, and another foot planted pretty firmly in the digital technology world. And often find myself in the position of sort of translating between the two groups, the people who are technically savvy, don't always speak the language of people in the helping business, and the people in the human services organizations don't always understand quite how technology works. And it's been a pleasure to be a go-between, and I think that's the role a lot of us filled in the early days in particular, and still today in nonprofit commons, is helping people who have real missions and real organizations in the visible world understand what a tremendously powerful and potent tool the immersive versus virtual environments can be when they're used correctly and used for good and not just for games. Not that there's anything wrong with games, but we are definitely fall into the serious games category, I think. So that, I think I'll stop there because there's a lot more to be said, but that certainly encapsulates my first couple of years with Nonprofit Commons.
That's amazing how you all got involved in that, and it's amazing how this community is growing all the time. Would others like to comment on this? How you each came to be involved in this community? Would you like to say something about that, Zinnia?
I would love to. Thank you. So for over 20 years, I've been serving on nonprofit arts and educational nonprofits, and served on their boards as member and president and vice president, and have been able to be a successful fundraiser and special events producer. And I would be, the youngling on a board who would say, we really need a website, we really need a computer in our office, really pushing, that idea that we needed to embrace technology in order to reach out to more folks. And I live out on the Olympic Peninsula, which is pretty far out there, and, we didn't have the best internet connections out here for a while. And my dad had given me a story about the nonprofit commons. And the day we got internet cable in my apartment, I signed up for Second Life in March of 2009, or 2008, sorry. And as soon as I could find a nice bob haircut, so I felt like myself, I had my red eyeshadow and red lipstick, I attended my first nonprofit commons meeting. It only took me a little bit of time to find that hair. And, in that process of, feeling like I couldn't attend that meeting before I felt like I was myself, I discovered the pay it forward concept in Second Life. Someone else had enough money to give me enough hair and enough money to go get some hair, and it made me feel like then I was there, I was present, and then I could attend that meeting and be my true self in that place. And at that time, I was creating a new arts nonprofit, working for a small museum in Sequim, Washington, which is on the Olympic Peninsula, and teaching at Peninsula College. And so I sat there and I listened and listened, and it was very exciting to be amongst people that may understand what I go through working with nonprofits. Living in an isolated area, I felt all by myself, and suddenly I was surrounded by people who were just like me. Well, as much as that thought. And Buffy invited me to a Wharf Rats, which is one of our networking events, to get to know more of our community members. And because I had a specific skill set, that gave me a chance to start working with the team, creating events, and doing marketing. And thanks, C. And, just having that ability to show up in a location and suddenly being recognized and understood was amazing for me. And they've just had my heart, and ever since then. This is where my core started, was attending that nonprofit commons meeting and suddenly having a bunch of people that understood and supported what I did while I supported them.
Yeah, I think that's most important in this community, the mutual support. Would you like to add something to that, Wisdomseeker or Lynn?
Sure. I'm going to actually just paste in what I wrote to introduce how I got involved with Nonprofit Commons, if that's okay with you all. See if I can do it.
Of course, yeah.
Let's see if I can do it. So I'm the baby on. I learned about Second Life at a positive aging conference, Outworld, in December 2011. I'm also the oldest person on this panel, I believe. I entered Second Life soon after that at age 73. Let's see if I can put the next. At first, I had only the vaguest notion of what I was doing in Second Life. It's amazing what old people can do. At first, I had only the vaguest notion of what I was doing in Second Life. I just knew I was fascinated by what I was learning here. Gradually, through conversations with friends I made in Second Life, I began to think about bringing the educational work I was already doing Outworld in here. So I founded the group Whole Brain Health and held the first Whole Brain Health Fair Day in April 2013. I made my first presentation about my work at a VAI conference the day before that fair, pushed by iSky and General Heron to do that, although I was petrified. Then that summer at this conference, I made another presentation, and through the people who encouraged me there, I discovered Nonprofit Commons, which is one of my favorite places to go. That's my story.
Wow, thank you very much. And obviously you're multitasking much better in multitasking than I am by presenting that as well. Yeah, okay. So having discussed this, what do you feel have been some of the greatest moments for you in the Nonprofit Commons community? You have been participating in yourself. Would you like to carry on with this, or who would like to say something?
So for me personally, I'm going to say applying for an office at Nonprofit Commons was an important step in developing a larger vision and clearer sense of purpose for what I wanted to do, both in Second Life and Outworld. And Coughran talks about the connection between these two. NPC has been wonderful in helping me make that connection. I made that decision after attending the NPC meetings for quite a while, and it wasn't at all something I'd planned to do when I came into SL, so it was a big surprise to me.
You know, many noteworthy things, and you know, I'll start with the Friday meetings that have been going on really since the beginning, and have given so many of us the opportunity both to learn a lot from our comrades, as well as to occasionally teach a thing or two that we might have had the opportunity to become good at. But it's been a great community, and the fact that it's continued for such a long period of time and continues to be well run, Rhiannon, and well attended. I think is just a testament to the durability of this technology. You know, so many things are technological fads. They're here for a while and then they're gone. But the Nonprofit Commons Friday meeting has continued to be excellent. There have been a lot of really good social activities, Common Ground that Zinnia runs, Wharf Rats that we've been running, that my original organization ran, has been going on for I guess about 7 years as well, which is good.
And Zinnia, how about you? What were the greatest moments for you in this community?
I have to agree with everyone that our standing Friday morning meetings have been a staple of my life for the last few years, and it is something that, you know, everyone knows I'm attending these meetings, that, you know, I schedule my classes around so I can attend these meetings. because this is where I connect with a community that I want to support and believe in. And through that, as C mentioned, it's given me the opportunity to produce special events like Common Ground and other community celebrations for our group, as well as Second Life birthday celebrations. And with doing that, that also gave us an opportunity to attend conferences in the physical world. And, you know, the first one I think that I attended that I participated with my peeps here was the Second Life Community Conference in 2009 in San Francisco. And it was amazing. You know, I had spent a year working with these folks in Second Life, and then I come into a room in a hotel for this conference, and people are yelling at me, "Zinnia, Zinnia!" They knew who I was in the physical form, and those bonds were so excellent and wonderful that it showed me the power of virtual worlds and this community that we have built, that we were friends already, and that when we came to a physical location, we were still those same people, and we still were friends, you know, in that space. And it was just, you know, like my heart is exploding of the love that I have for these people. And it was so wonderful to give them a real hug instead of a virtual one. And in these spaces, in these conferences, having the opportunity to, you know, stand on a panel with someone that I stand on panels virtually was wonderful. And to know that they had my back. I mean, so often when we're working with people, we may not always trust them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that now I expect in any situation, that I want to have that same confidence in people, that they will be there for me, that I can trust that they're going to do stuff for me. And, you know, in producing events in world has also given me those skills in order to, you know, lead people, give them the tools they need, and to support as many people as possible in one way or another.
That's fantastic. I mean, may I just ask you, Zinnia, you said that you're visiting the Friday meetings regularly. How many people are there roundabout? Do you know?
You know, it really depends on who may be the guest speakers. It may depend on the time of year. I would say probably between, I was going to say somewhere between 25, 35. Sometimes, you know, we have 50. Sometimes we do our best to try to crash the sim, you know?
Wow.
And I think that's the other thing, that when you sit here, I mean, I'm in my pajamas usually when we're in the meetings, and I'm like, you know, sitting here having my coffee. I mean, it's part of my ritual, and to be surrounded by all of these amazing people who make the effort to show up to these meetings. I mean, it's like my church, really, that there's that dedication, and to have a group of people, you know, even if it's like 10 people, I mean, I am so thankful for those folks to show up and that they're dedicated.
Yeah, so I should rather actually ask Joyce and Buffy about it, because Joyce, you're the coordinator of these meetings, right?
Yes, yep. So I organize the weekly meetings, and we bring in, you know, presenters from within the community itself. So the members themselves who are giving presentations on their work, or the mentors giving presentations on, you know, useful tools or sort of other resources that would be relevant to nonprofits or social goods or other orgs or educators. And then we also invite in others from outside of Nonprofit Commons to kind of give either tool or tech talks or talks on their work that might be relevant to the community at large.
Sorry. I didn't want to get you sidetracked here.
That's okay. That's okay. In going, you know, in kind of going back to the other question about the whole memory.
Exactly. Yeah. About how the greatest moments for you, both the nonprofit commons community and yourself. If you could say some things about that.
So I kind of a sort of a unique position in some ways. I was sort of acquainted with nonprofit commons, but not really a member for quite a long time. I think I'm maybe one of the older avatars on the stage, though funny enough, probably one of the younger people. I came to Second Life in 2005 and actually had a weird bug for a long time in the very early days where the main viewer would crash on me when I would start it, and the only way that I could get into things is by going in through the calendar events. There used to be a calendar events that Linden Lab would publish online of Second Life events, sort of the event listings that you search now. And that almost pushed me to kind of do these searches and look for content and things that I was interested in for moment one. And I was always going into Second Life via some event. Often they were art focused or, social good focused. And so I ran across nonprofit commons back to Dick's Point, back when they were at the Library Alliance regions. And then from there, kind of furthered, continuing through that thing, got involved with a nonprofit, Global Kids, that was doing educational nonprofit work. They had space in the teen grid of Second Life. And Global Kids worked in partnership quite a bit with nonprofit commons. We had some collective events because at that time, Global Kids only had a region in the teen grid. So they would, turn to nonprofit commons, and then we would do some collaborative events with them and host things there. And then also later on, when Global Kids was doing work with the MacArthur Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation, SIMS, and the State Department, and the nonprofit commons regions, and there were quite a few others, all joined together to become this nonprofit archipelago of SIMS that were together for a while. And so I was very involved in a lot of crossover events, and from that then got involved in nonprofit commons, and some of those early collaborations were very important, and some of my best memories, working with nonprofit commons residents and at the time to do relief efforts for virtual Haiti when the kind of tsunami disasters happened and the earthquake. And through collaboration with nonprofit commons and other communities, we were able to raise $10,000 right? And of relief money that actually got sent to a charity that then was used to help in that regards to that disaster. And that was lots of participation from the other NPC members. And I wasn't a member yet, but that really kind of always stuck with me, that sense of kind of community and coming together for that. And then it actually took until 2012 when I became the community manager, though I was always involved, and to really get that deeper context of that. So, but it was great. And I think I could probably turn it over to Buffy now to chat about her best memories.
Thanks, Ray. Greatest moments, I think that's easy. Being part of 5 nonprofits, Bridges for Women, Community Voicemail, Floaters, International Humanities. Oh, my doggy, just a sec. Right, take over for me. There's someone at my door. Can you believe it? Just a sec.
You have to love that. This is when real life pops into the virtual. I don't know if, what's the next question we have? Maybe we can jump to the next one.
Turn to the next question, because many of you are not only members of the nonprofit commons community, but are mentors and organizers within the community. So in what way do you feel the community has led the way in both promoting and spotlighting individuals with significant contributions to nonprofits, education, and best practices?
There are a lot of nonprofit organizations in Second Life that are not involved directly or sometimes even at all with nonprofit commons, and we acknowledge that, and that's great. But the thing that I think distinguishes Nonprofit Commons from other organizations that have missions outside in the outside world is that we exist specifically within Second Life to help nonprofit organizations prosper and do well and advance their missions, both by their participation within Second Life itself, as well as help nonprofits by the benefit of sharing experiences and knowledge of how to do better in real life as well. And I think that's just really a key distinguishing factor that the NPC does better than anybody else. I know a lot of organizations that are nonprofits that exist here will have a workshop from time to time and share some valuable knowledge and information, but it's the consistent mission of NPC is to be here for nonprofits so that they can do better in the work that they do in the world, as well as the work that they do in world.
Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I'll jump from what he had to say, that, we're here to support each other, and C, produces the Wharf Rats networking party, which has been going on for 7 years. And so that was another, weekly event that we knew that we could connect with each other and share resources. And I know for myself, in producing Common Ground, which started as a weekly event, and then we decided it'd be a monthly event. Yeah, we have to dance. It's a requirement. That I wanted to produce an event that created a shared experience, that would bond people together and give us an opportunity to network and learn from each other. And
could you explore what the Wharf Rats are to everyone?
So Wharf Rats has been a weekly get-together at the Preferred Family Healthcare Houseboat. And it has been a location where people are invited to dance and to network, and I'll tell you that's where I've forged many of my wonderful friendships here in Second Life. It has definitely been a base for people to meet and get to know each other. And quite often, the party there is disguised as, a fun party where we're dancing and carrying on, and maybe we're talking a little too much about ice cream. But in reality, well, okay, C and I have the same ice cream taste, so.
Moose Tracks.
Moose Tracks! Okay. So, it is disguised as something fun, but in reality, this is where we have learned and we have grown and we have supported each other and made the community stronger through ice cream and dancing. C, do you want to add a little bit more about Wharf Rats?
Yeah, one of the things that happened, I already talked about the establishment of the first sim on Plush for Nonprofit Commons, and it was a already established sim. The buildings were there and the spaces were there for the nonprofit groups to get involved. And the next thing that happened that was part of the growth of NPC was one of the members won a competition. I'll try to make this a fairly long story short, but the Aloft Hotels company bought a sim in Second Life, and they built a prototype hotel, a new prototype that they were going to call Aloft. I think it was the Starwood Group, and had people come and visit this hotel and give them feedback that they actually used for a good business purpose to help them design the hotels, which now exist in many cities around the world. And when they were done with this marketing project, they offered the sim up to any nonprofit group who presented them with a good model for how they would use this space, and one of the NPC members suggested that it could be part of what Nonprofit Commons was already doing and help us expand. What we decided to do, though, was we were going to make it completely different in the look and feel than the more traditional sim that we already had, that had sort of, 18th century buildings built around a big square. And so there was a lot more freeform stuff. And one of the things that I wanted to do was build a kind of a nightclub type of space, because even in my work in the behavioral health field, I've always said that, counseling there's no reason that it can't be fun while it's useful and helpful. So that was the same principle, as we wanted to have a space where people would come and mainly have fun. So we have live music or streamed in music, and we have dancing, and we force people to dance basically. But in the midst of it all, we're having conversations, and a lot of times new people will be there, and it'll help them feel more comfortable as a part of the group. And a lot of us people who've been around for a while are there, and we continue to share our experiences and our knowledge while we're having a good time. Every Tuesday night, 7 p.m.
Thanks for that, and that reminds me that I need to go there, and I hope that I will be picked up by Buffy on the flying carpet again, which was my first experience there, which was so fantastic. And so back to Buffy. I think your dog is well under control, not running into this. So I'd like to carry on about your mentoring and what you do within the community, Buffy?
Sure, thanks. And I'm glad you liked that ride. It really is one of my favorite things to do in Second Life still. The mentorship group was a subgroup that was unofficially going on for quite a while. It just kind of happened that experienced users such as myself and Coughran and a lot of the other new people, older people, we just kind of stepped up to jump in and help when we could. And I really must say, Coughran, you were really the first mentor, I think, because when we were all moving in, you were the first one to jump in and help me. And really, you were a mentor for me in learning how to build and how do I do this. You were always there. And I think that's your title from now on. You're the big M, the first one. Another community member that really helped for the mentoring was a woman named Inkenzo. Yvonne Henning is in a real life. She's the giant green fairy who loomed over us in the early days, making buildings and flattening areas for an office with ease. She really showed a lot of us how to do things and put a lot of hard work into making our community a success. So I learned a lot from Ink. She's a tech wizard, and I have much respect for her knowledge. I had the time and interest, so I naturally fell into helping others as well. And from there, a lot of people started joining in, and we evolved into a group who looked after the community gateway by taking shifts. We started staying behind after the Friday meetings to help anybody out with a question, and we still do that now, and organize different roles and call-out system for responding to requests for help, and developed a lot of information and the toolkits, which are very useful. And I must say, when Zinnia came along, she was really instrumental in making us an official group with a spot on the agenda to share our knowledge. And you're awesome, Zia, true leader of the mighty mentor group, and we've had many regular members such as Wisdom who have contributed so much to keep the mentor group going. We continue to grow and organize nonprofit events, and there's so much of value for this community of ours to have this mentor group, and I attribute this group as a critical factor to our success, really, not only for the individuals we help provide information for, but just for sharing information and all the tips we do on our regular slot now on the agenda of things such as using social media applications to benefit our organizations, or tips on holding an effective meeting for right up to best practices for leading a team. And I must say, Gentle Heron is one of the most regular presenters from the mentors and does such a great job as well too. One more quick shout out is, and I think this is also attributes to our success, is our caretaker of the nonprofit commons, and Parethlon Palu. I never know how to say his name. I just call him Par. And Par's been around for years as a devoted supporter and helper bee, and spent endless hours landscaping or decorating our shared spaces at the commons, many years without any payment. He's a really great guy and makes me smile with his antics, except for when he pushes me in the water when I'm away from my keyboard. I really love you, Par. You're indeed the rock of our community and a huge factor for our success. And I think that kind of sums up the role of the mentors. So I'll pass it back to you, Letty.
Letty, can I interject a little bit about the mentors as well? I want to say that Buffy was an excellent guide for the mentors, and to have a fantastic idea of how we can utilize virtual worlds to educate people. And as mentioned, during our regular Friday meetings, we have Mentor Central, which gives us 5 minutes to share some information that we might utilize in-world or out to support our nonprofits and educational institutions and other adventures that we may have. And what I have found with the core mentors in producing events and helping others along the way, I find that the best way for us to learn something is to teach others. And in producing events and supporting, new folks that are coming in and setting up their offices, this was a way to accelerate our skill sets in virtual worlds. Because someone had a question and we had to find that answer, we went crazy to learn more and more about what we could do in virtual worlds. So in reality, us helping others, really, we were able to help ourselves, and I hope that we continue to help others along the way, so we just keep learning more and more. It was a great way to build teams, it was a great way to showcase others, and it gives us a chance to bring new people into our community for them to share their knowledge.
The next question I have, thank you, Zinnia Zauber, and the next question I have for Joyce, actually, and that is, NonProfit Commons' mission focuses around lowering the barrier of access to Second Life, as well as creating a community of practice for nonprofits to explore and learn about virtual worlds and the ways that nonprofits, social good projects, educators, and others might utilize these unique environments. So how do you feel that you have stayed true to the original mission and aims of NonProfit Commons? Joyce.
Sure. First off, I think, in the role of the community manager, which it's been an evolving role over time, and the community itself has evolved over time. I think you can't have a long-running community at this point, since 2006 that this started, and not have evolution and change over time. And in regards to staying true to that mission, though, over that period of time, first I have the shoulders of amazing community organizers, amazing mentors and members that are part of the community that I get to kind of lean on. And especially that was very important in the beginning when I was sort of just taking the role to really help the mentors and the members kind of direct me at what was the most crucial needs to them in that way. Of course, we also have the other side of it, that it is a community that is managed by a larger nonprofit organization, TechSoup.org, for those who want to visit that site, and now also their subdivision Caravan Studios, which is what Susan Tenby is part of now. That that kind of is the storehouse that holds the the community and the regions. But so there's also that part of it as well, where, we have to find that goal between serving the mission and the good of the orgs the org that is behind this, and then also the members. I think I've tried to do that with the weekly meetings, making sure that not only is it touching upon topics that are relevant to nonprofits, whether that be capacity building related things, the learning technology tools that are relevant, and in some ways, as Coughran was saying, he's an early adopter. I think quite a few of us that are in this mentor role are kind of in that vein as well. But ultimately, the community at large that comes to us may not be quite as tech savvy, and I think it's my responsibility, and also that of the mentors, I think, to help educate them and nurture them and bring them along, so that way they're also kind of aware of the technology and possibilities, especially in immersive and virtual worlds and other technologies beyond that could help them fulfill their missions. So I think in that I've tried to kind of stay true to that overarching and then also to that overarching mission, and also see and also try hard to sort of have people share their work. I think there's power in that sharing of the what everybody is doing in their day to day, and that best practices, and kind of finding those connection points to be able to kind of build upon their own work based on what they've had other members share. So I think that's very important as well.
I would like to go on to the next question, that is, to what extent do you feel that NonProfit Commons has distinguished itself from other groups? I mean, maybe you could continue on that, Joyce, and others could comment on that.
Sure. I've seen, I'm kind of a community junkie here in Second Life in a way. Whether that be from having organized events like the Second Life Community Convention, and then even also the Open Simulator Community Convention, I think there's community is a strong point that helps stick new users to immersive spaces like this. And of course, our nonprofit commons community is an important community of practice for those of us that are interested in social good and how to use these spaces for that. But I also think there's validity and crossover between lots of other communities as well, including, the educational and librarian communities. And then even also a lot of the more informal communities, like we all know of Builders Brewery or New Citizens Center, or even broader, more social communities like the steampunk communities or others. I think in the nonprofit common sense, we've tried to be welcoming to anyone within those sort of greater communities at large that have that are interested in sort of social good uses, or the general philanthropic, I think, nature and spirit that is present in Second Life. But I think what distinguishes us is that we are more specifically focusing on that. So where we're very warm, we're very inviting for anybody to come in and crossover. I mean, that really is our focus, is how to use these spaces for social good and for change, and whether that be health related, health orgs or activism or arts orgs or whatever that kind of is, that or charity or fundraising. So I think we always try to kind of hold to that. And I think I can kind of pass that along. I don't know if Buffy, you want to say anything?
Yeah, thanks, Rhett. I think you mentioned about the crossover between different communities, and I see a very strong connection between nonprofits and the educational side, and just the very fact that we've been invited as a panel here today really speaks to that to me. And just a quick shout out. Thank you very much for that opportunity. To the organizers. It's a wonderful conference, and it really feels an honor to be here today. So I think that's just what I wanted to say, that that we do a lot of good work here, both groups, and I've always said we are the ones who bring validity to Second Life, and I strongly believe that, and I'm very proud to be part of all these communities here that do that. So,
I'm going to agree with you, Buffy, that what we have found with the nonprofit commons is it is a way for us to bridge so many other communities and support folks, and as they support us, and it does bring validity to what we do in virtual worlds. Quite often people will ask, why are we using a virtual world to support our missions as nonprofits and educators and artists and scientists? It's because it gives us access to so many amazing people that have brilliant ideas that we may have never considered, as well as it allows us to foster partnerships, just like what happens here at this conference, that we get to build our bank of amazing, awesome folks that we can utilize for other projects, that may give us ideas that we had never thought about, and gives us connections worldwide.
Could you give a practical example from your experience, Zinnia?
I'll give you a great example. Since I've been interested in technology and grew up with it, probably being the first person in my school that had a computer at home and my parents working with technology, it was a natural thing for me to always utilize it. And always wanted to support smaller nonprofits because they may not, have that capital in order to invest in it. And when I was able to show folks in my small community how we use virtual worlds and how it can be a location that they can do things, that they could have meetings, that they could show off their work. And one of our nonprofit teammates worked at a very small museum. His name's Ethelred, and the small museum that he worked at was closed because they were working on, refurbishing and fixing it. And so while it was closed, he exhibited the history of his community at the nonprofit commons in his office. And from, that sprung an idea that he and I should work together, and we actually formed a new nonprofit called the Museum Collective to help support small museums and nonprofits to use technology in this way. So it was really great to be able to now, if someone needs a little bit of help to come in world and display, or they need to understand why we do this, he and I both like to do presentations and to educate people, and it allowed us to form a nonprofit to support folks. And I think Buffy's experienced this as well, where new nonprofits are born from our experiences and connections here.
Yes, absolutely. Lynn, would you like to share something or to this question, or?
I think I'll wait till number 8.
Okay. So
I can let me talk briefly about the more general question of Second Life as a platform, because long before I got into Second Life, I was involved in my local community with the American Cancer Society Relay for Life project. My mother passed away from complications of brain cancer, and I'd been involved in several local Relay for Life events, and when I first got into Second Life, that was one of the things that I saw everywhere around Second Life was posters for the in-world Relay for Life, and if you take a look at the history of the American Cancer Society and the Relay for Life in world, it's remarkable. I think in last year they raised almost $500,000 US in inside of Second Life, which is just an incredible thing. It's one of those things where they started using the technology. It started slowly. I think the first year they had it in 2005 or so, they raised about $5,000. But every year since then, the amount of money that they've been able to raise through this virtual event, which is actually a combination of many virtual events that are run inside of Second Life has been just a testament to what you can do when you find a platform like this and you put it to good use and you manage it smartly.
Well, you have already responded to what I was going to ask you next, and that is how your work has grown and changed over the time that you've been active in Second Life. And this question I would like to pass on to Lynn, if you would like to respond.
Sure, I think I can respond to this the best of any. As you can hear from the other people on this panel, they have been involved in Second Life and done so many fantastic things here. So I've certainly, just by being part of NonProfit Commons, benefited so much in terms of what I have learned and also what I've even tried to do. I actually went on into OpenSim for the first time because of NonProfit Commons. I presented. I was sort of pushed again to present at the OSCC conference in 2013, and in 2014 we actually, Dancers Yao and her Galaxy Language, which is a play, took part in that conference, and we had about 6 avatars acting out a play having to do with human rights. I think it was the first time that OSCC had tried this kind of thing, so I give them a lot of credit. But it's led me out into the world to do presentations that I would not have done before. I'm going to present next week at the American Society on Aging Conference in Chicago, and I'm going to talk about the work I'm doing with 20 other avatars on my Sim Inspiration Island, and talk about the work here at NPC as well, and give them a very nice slideshow of people here who are over the age of 60, an amazing number of people here who are very accomplished. So this has certainly added a tremendous amount to my life.
Well, thank you. And you are amazing too, with what you are doing and have been doing so far. It's just incredible. I think I just cut Coughran short. I think you have lots more to say to this query or question.
Well, beyond the example that I gave of the utility of virtual worlds, my involvement in Second Life and discovering what you can accomplish inside a immersive virtual environment really was a career-changing event for me. I worked for 30 years for organizations, both hospitals and outside nonprofit clinic centers in the mental health field. And in 2008, after I'd been in Second Life for a year, actually it was a little over a year, the organization I was involved with at the time, we applied for some grant funding in order to explore the possibility of doing counseling, distance counseling with people who couldn't travel to our real bricks and mortar offices, and had several actually successes, if that's hard to say, with some projects. And it actually got me to a point of proposing to my current employer, my employer at that time, that we turn this into sort of a field of business that we would do. And they were encouraging, but not encouraging enough to make me feel like we were going to do the things that I thought that we were capable of. And so the creation of virtual environments that organizations could use for counseling purposes became a real stimulus for my starting my consulting business 3.5 years ago or so. And although I do other strategy and fundraising and grant writing consultations and for organizations, that's still about 50% of the work that I do every year is working with organizations, helping them set up private secure virtual worlds where they can connect with clients and overcome a lot of the obstacles that people have to getting help because of distance or mobility or things like that. So I can say absolutely that my introduction to and early involvement with Second Life completely changed my career in a direction that I certainly would not have expected in 2007.
Sure. This is Joyce. I'm happy to kind of respond too. So my, kind of my experience and work of here in Second Life has changed a lot over time. Initially, when I discovered Second Life, which that was actually back in January of 2005. So it's been over a decade now, which is pretty amazing to think. I didn't have any clear goal. I was exploring the space, and and what kind of drew me in were, the various communities, especially some of the, creative communities, and those initial things, were what initially kind of got me involved. And then I discovered kind of there were a lot of other richer communities, and as I said, had that funny bug about going in for events, so always had to find something interesting to do, and then that kind of got me around to there. But I certainly had no perception that it would be anything other than a social space. And, and at the time, my background is formally as a designer. And I worked in a corporate environment as a graphic designer, web designer. And, but found these spaces rich and found Second Life to be a wonderful place to kind of collaboratively create and work on projects with others, which I think sort of was something that I yearned for from, college days. It's kind of, as an artist, art is often solitary. So doing things in a community collaborative way intrigued me. And I think because I worked in such a corporate environment, I longed for what drew me, what drew more to my heart of social good related things. So that kind of caused me to start, creating fundraisers. I mentioned Virtual Haiti. Before even that, I got involved with fundraising, fundraising for relief for Katrina relief when the Katrina hurricane hit New Orleans and Georgia, which that even predates the Relay for Life stuff. And I think these series of like getting involved in how can I use this space as a place to kind of do good and change the world caused me to kind of come upon to kind of get more involved in nonprofit and kind of socially good educational related things as well. And that led to beginning to interact with folks like Barry Joseph from Global Kids, who then ended up becoming later my boss, and working on all those MacArthur Foundation funded digital media and learning projects, and basically applying my, technical and creative skills in this medium and other interrelated mediums in a way that could, in the case of that, educate youth and empower them via, learning in these mediums. And then, and then that kind of carried on from there. I co-founded with a couple other people a group to more specifically work on the Vesuvius group. I co-founded with a few others to work specifically on educational nonprofit related immersive projects, because it was something I, enjoyed and felt made a difference to create a meaningful environment that was engaging to others' work. And then also from there, founded Avicon, which runs other events like this and is interested in how we can kind of grow these spaces and move them forward. So I think definitely that, all this, I would have never realized that Second Life would have changed my career path and at all, but it has, amazingly.
Well, thank you so much for responding to this question, so detailed. I think that Zinnia wanted to add something, or am I mistaken? Zinnia, would you just say yes?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Yes, please. Thank
go
you.
ahead.
So, one thing that I realized is that I definitely wanted to come into virtual worlds so I could teach and, of course, learn along the way. And the thing that's changed for me is that it actually hasn't happened in me so much as it has happened for those I work with outside of virtual worlds. For example, my college has always embraced that I teach classes in Second Life, that I have classes where I have students who are on campus, and that I teach online, and they come together in the virtual world of Second Life in order to work together, to do critiques and meet guests, and learn for so many other people all over the world. And because my college has supported what I've done, they've also allowed me to develop a new certificate within my college, which is going to be a digital storytelling and 3D design. And I have to owe a lot of this happening because of my experiences working with the NonProfit Commons and other educational institutions. Their work helped support my work, which then in turn made it so that others, like my college and other institutions, would understand the power of virtual worlds. It changed their mind from it just being a space where people came in and created to being a space that people learned and connected.
The next question I would like to ask you is, what do you think the future holds for nonprofits and others using virtual worlds? And are there any other technologies you're exploring, think interesting, or possibly impact social change?
Well, I've always kind of made a point to try to stay well-read in terms of technology and see what's coming along. I think, first of all, I should say I think we're a long way away from fully plumbing the depths of what can be done with virtual immersive environments, and I think it's still a platform that has great potential for growth and utilization for nonprofits. At the same time, I recognize that some things may need to change technologically even within that category of immersive virtual environments, and because so many people around the world are connected to the web via mobile devices like tablets and phones, and Second Life and similar spaces are tend to function better with when you're sitting at a keyboard. The transition or the resolution of that difference is an important thing that we should be keeping an eye on. I've had the experience of doing some experimentation with both the Oculus Rift and the Samsung headset that uses their Samsung phone as the screen, and I think those also have some great potential for utilization for businesses, and for both for-profit businesses and non-profit businesses. And I'm also involved in a couple of projects now that are using kind of universal text tools in order to help people manage their health challenges. And I think that those are things that we should all be keeping an eye on as well.
Thank you. Who would like to add something to that?
Yeah, I'm happy to. This is Joyce again.
Great, Joyce.
So, yeah, I think, the future nonprofit-wise, and certainly, as I said, Nonprofit Commons is tied to the real life nonprofit TechSoup and their subdivision of Caravan Studios, and certainly they are, they're interested in this too. Like, how do you support nonprofits as a whole, and what does that mean with the technology they use now? and also what does that mean for sort of the upcoming and future technologies. And I think, in virtual environments, as Coughran said, there's a lot that can be done here, and there's still a lot to come in regards to, things like Oculus Rift or other kind of heads up or other interactive devices like, Leap Motion or other sort of ways of instead of using a mouse or a keyboard to be able to interact with these spaces. And I think, and that also, I think there's also an interplay between virtual worlds too, and the kind of virtual to real component. A lot of people are exploring that, we can take, in essence, our avatars and everything we're doing here is data and the models and everything else, and we could bring that out and, we could create things here, bring them out via 3D printing into the, a real life space, and or vice versa, and be able to kind of quickly prototype and mock things up in that way, and things like that have given have added to the great advancements in things like prosthetic devices, which I think you see that I think more and more hugely in the nonprofit sector for those with disabilities. And then on a more general, broader level, we have a lot of topics like like big data and security and privacy, and how all these things impact both virtual environments and us as the people behind the avatars, and how that impacts how nonprofits kind of not only kind of conduct their day-to-day and work towards their missions, but also what those possibilities look like. So, in our weekly nonprofit commons meetings, as I had mentioned before, I think I also, as some part of our mission, I try to bring as much across not only what people are working on now, but the potential for here's these technologies that are really kind of just emerging. Coughran mentioned that, he tries to be well read and kept up with this. And I think, I in the community manager role, I sort of take that and then also try to pass that kind of learning on to others as well, because I think some of the folks that come to us are kind of accidental techies, right? They may not be as comfortable. And it's the same way in the educational sphere as well. That sometimes there's so much technology out there that, assistance and guidance in how to effectively use it or what lies on the horizon, I think is very important. And I think community groups, especially like our nonprofit commons, can help, kind of be able to sort and learn those things.
How do you think that the future changes of Second Life into a third life, or whatever you will call it, as Ebba Altberg advertised, that will influence the work of your work of Common Profits? And any thoughts on that yet?
I got a chance, I mentioned Susan Tenby. Susan and myself got a chance to sit with Ebba Altberg at the end of last summer, and when I was in San Francisco, and he kind of outlined some of the early thoughts of where they were going with that. And, I think, and then I think there's some interest in the fact that they're certainly looking at how to make this, kind of more incorporated with other technologies, like we brought up Oculus Rift and heads-up displays and other kind of input devices. So that lends interesting possibilities, both in maybe how it could be accessed in different ways, that maybe could be more or less accessible, right, depending upon how you think about it. But then also the ability to maybe create more immersive experiences that, depending upon your cause, could lend to that. Buffy brought up Yvonne Haining in Kenzo here in Second Life. She, for an example, she created a Camp Darfur experience that allowed people to sort of walk through and sort of experience and socially kind of be part of something in a virtual environment they wouldn't be able to easily in a real life environment. And I think some of those use cases that you could kind of really dive people into what something experiences, and even maybe in a more immersive level, and something like a newer viewer that's more geared towards that is interesting. Ultimately, I think the rest of exactly how that next variant of what Linden Lab puts out, is kind of up in the air until we're able to sort of go in and see an alpha or beta experience of it. I don't know if anybody else has any other thoughts from seeing Ebby's keynote or anything.
I think I really think it's important. As we nonprofits, I consider us caretakers of the real world in our own ways. I think it's important that we keep up with the advancements of technology, whatever that be. And I mean, imagine if we still try to decide if we needed a Facebook page or a Twitter handle. So I think it'll be the same with virtual worlds, and we need to understand it to be able to use it to our advantage for things as getting our cause known and networking. And a virtual world, it's just another form of social media. We have to know and understand how to use it to its fullest potential. So that's what I want to say about that. The future is virtual.
What advice would you give others looking to explore virtual environments for serious uses such as non-profit, social good, and education?
That's pretty easy. Join NonProfit Commons.
Yeah, okay.
It's not only, the go-to place every week for learning about yet new ways that people other nonprofits are using technology, but the community is so good and so filled with people who are not only willing but able to be of help to any nonprofit organization that wants to explore really almost any of these facets of technology that we're talking about, but very much certainly Second Life and virtual worlds, that you couldn't find a better place to go to meet people and make connections and forge partnerships and friendships that will be helpful to you in the future.
Yeah, I could only support that because I frequently visit this place. And what I noticed is also that it's not only about technology, this and the other. It's about humans and helping each other. And people, I noticed that they find an opportunity to express their very, very personal little things about their pets or what have you. And that is something that really that took me, not by surprise, but it touched me in quite a big way. So that people really find communities and a place to really share things. Okay, but
before we pop away from that, so I kind of want to throw a bit of that question back to you, because I think, Letty, you have been an interesting person. I mean, there's lots of others here in the audience as well that has connected with the nonprofit commons. I know you even got involved in our digital storytelling and actually even won an award for that. So, I think it's interesting, you being one of those people that has come into the community, even, some overall thoughts or from you as well.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm in different communities and I'm doing different things in the world, but I always feel kind of dragged back to this place, to the meetings, if I can afford it, because of the interesting subjects, the support you get and everything. And I've never, except of the virtual ability islands, I hardly ever met so many supportive people around. And you offer the support on the website, on this TechSoup website, and everywhere. And this friendliness in a world where people from the outside say it's all what is it? It's a computer, and there are not real people in it, and you talk to a computer. And I think this just is so different there. And I've made lots of friends in there, and friends that I meet in other connections at conferences, and you kind of, as people said here, you start building trust. And in this panel here, I think I knew everybody through various contexts within the communities there. So it's amazing. It's really, really fantastic. And I mean, the topic of today's panel, not the panel, but the whole conference is crossroads. And I think what I experiencing here is that we keep crossing roads all the time. I saw Zinnia Zauber in the same MA as I'm taking part in. Some other people from the community also taking the MA, and all different kinds of places you meet, and that's really a great community. I don't get paid for saying that. No, I'm just joking. Okay, so but let's come back to others here, like Zinnia. I mean, I mentioned your name. Would you like to say something about the future, or how you see it, or somebody else from the audience?
I would love to say something.
Okay.
What I see here is the crossroads of folks that have unique talents and amazing skills that can benefit the whole. A lot of the work I do as an artist is to look at the individual, the uniqueness of it, and then also combine that with the unity of a community. And what I see, with the nonprofit commons is that we want to build our community. We want to be as inclusive as possible. We want to find our partners in good. And I want to be sure that at this event and any other events that we continue to invite people to participate with us and to understand that they are completely welcome, and we want to use their uniqueness within our system. Did that sound too Borg-like? Maybe. But really what it is that this is a space that we can work together, and it means so much to me to be able to showcase that. Yeah, no words.
Yeah. So, would you mind that I come to the final questions to this, and that is with this year's Virtual World Best Practice theme being Crossroads, as I just mentioned in my comments, how has the non-profit commons community been a crossroads for you? You personally. Rhiannon, would you like to respond to that?
Sure, and I think some of it, echoes kind of what Zinnia just said. I think that all the collaborations experience from the nonprofit commons community, and also the community at large, of folks that interact with us and come to the weekly meetings and come to the events and help out and mentor in various ways. Ultimately they support and further both nonprofit commons larger mission of support, but then also supporting our members and our mentors and the kind of collective community. And I think, that's all very important, not only to just learn new tech skills or to, find out what each other are doing, which are all also important. But I think that community of support, in and of itself, and the community of practice is and having that there and it being there on a consistent basis and through this long time is very important. And again, it has been echoed here. I encourage anybody to come to those weekly meetings, Friday mornings, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, to put out the plug, at NonProfit Commons. So, and definitely, obviously, interact with any of us. As you see, we're all very kind of mentory friendly folks. So I don't know if anybody else has anything else to say on that.
I can only encourage everybody to visit on these Friday visits. We have got 2 minutes to go, and I would like to encourage any question from the audience which you might want to have answered. Will that be okay if you put a question you have into chat? We don't have much more to do, but here is networking is so wonderful. That's what Gwen Gwazi says. Yeah, Gwen asked about TechSoup, so
Sure.
maybe you could put the link into the chat and the time when the meetings are on Friday. That would be good.
I should point out, too, that one of the reasons that I connected so well with NonProfit Commons was that I already had experience with TechSoup, with their software sharing program that they have. They have an excellent program for nonprofit organizations that want to get access to really high-quality software very cheaply. And I'd done business with TechSoup for several years before I ever found Second Life. So when I got here and I found out that they were connected with NonProfit Commons, it was a no-brainer decision for me to get involved with them.
It's Buffy here. I just wanted to say, that's exactly what happened to me. It was because of the NonProfit Commons that I saw. It was finding TechSoup that made me stay and stay as forever now.
I would like to thank the panelists for a really great informative discussion. And I'd like to thank the audience for listening. And a big clap to Laurie van Lustre for writing all the text, and for Gentle Heron, who's also been working on the text. So a big clap, a big hand. Thank you very, very much. See you on Friday at TechSoup.